In a kingdom of glittering palaces and whispered secrets, a young princess lived under a shadow far darker than her gilded halls. Born into royalty, she should have known safety and privilege, yet danger lurked at every turn. From the very beginning, plots to end her life surfaced, poisoned meals, sudden accidents, and betrayals from those she trusted most. Courtiers whispered in corridors, eyes darting nervously as rumors of assassination swirled like smoke. But against every calculated attempt to snuff out her young life, she survived, a fragile figure with the courage of a lion hidden beneath her delicate exterior. Her heart raced with fear, yet her mind sharpened with every narrow escape, learning the deadly patterns of court intrigue. What made her survival miraculous was not mere luck, but a combination of instinct, cunning, and a strange resilience that even her enemies could not break. By the end of her childhood, she had become a living testament to royal survival against all odds. The young princess had barely begun to understand her world when danger first arrived at the gates of her royal nursery. It was a seemingly ordinary morning in the palace, with sunbeams cutting through the towering windows and the faint scent of roses drifting from the gardens. Yet beneath the calm, treachery lurked. One of the king's most trusted courtiers had been bribed by a faction opposed to the royal family's succession. Their plan was simple. The princess, only 6 years old, played unaware of the storm gathering around her. She traced her tiny fingers along the embroidered edges of her chair, humming a tune she had learned from her governess. Meanwhile, the assassin, cloaked in servant attire, moved silently through the palace corridors, his heart cold and steady. Every step he took brought him closer to his intended victim, yet fate, or perhaps divine protection, had other plans. As the intruder reached the nursery door, a sudden noise startled him. A cat, black as midnight, had knocked over a vase in the hallway. The loud crash echoed through the chamber, alerting the princess's caretaker. Within moments, the corridor was flooded with guards who had been patrolling nearby. The would-be murderer froze, realizing his plan had been compromised. In the chaos, he attempted to flee, but the guards were relentless. They captured him before he could strike, his dagger clattering to the marble floor. The princess, oblivious to the full scale of the danger she had narrowly escaped, continued her innocent play. But those around her could not ignore the severity of the attempt. Her governess wept silently, clutching the child to her chest, whispering prayers of protection. The king's council convened immediately, furious that such a breach of security could have occurred within the palace walls. Orders were given to tighten guards, inspect every servant, and root out any remaining conspirators. The palace itself seemed to hold its breath, knowing that the threat to the young princess was far from over. Historians later noted that this first attempt marked the beginning of a pattern that would define her early life. Every smile, every toy, every innocent step she took in the corridors of the palace was now shadowed by fate. Yet, in contrast, her survival became a symbol of resilience. The contrast between her fragile youth and the deadly plots around her painted a vivid picture of the stakes at play. It was not merely a tale of danger. It was a story of a child forced to navigate a world where life itself was a gamble, and survival required more than innocence. It demanded luck, intuition, and the unwavering protection of those who loved her. The first attempt on her life was over, but its impact would echo through the corridors of history, shaping a princess who would learn early that her crown came with enemies as numerous and merciless as her allies were devoted. This brush with death, though terrifying, forged the beginnings of a survival instinct that would define her entire life. Even as threats closed in from every corner of the palace, the young princess was never truly alone. Among the courtiers, one figure stood apart, not in wealth or rank, but in unwavering loyalty. Sir Alaric, a retired knight and trusted guardian of the royal family, had been quietly assigned to watch over her since birth. His presence was subtle, often unnoticed by those who plotted her demise, yet his vigilance became her invisible shield. The princess, still innocent and unaware of the dangers surrounding her, had grown fond of this quiet figure. She would giggle when he showed her the trick of balancing a feather on his finger or read aloud tales of ancient heroes whose courage matched their wisdom. To her, he was simply a kind companion. To the court, he was the unspoken force standing between life and death. Sir Alaric moved silently through shadowed corridors, listening for whispers that might betray assassins, monitoring the comings and goings of every servant, every noble. His eyes were always watching, scanning for the faintest sign of malice. The first attempt on the princess's life had taught him a harsh lesson. The enemy was cunning and relentless. They did not strike openly, but like predators lurking in plain sight, blending into celebrations and ceremonies. At the grand feast in the great hall, Sir Alaric's gaze never wavered. He observed the courtiers, noting subtle glances, the nervous twitch of a hand resting too long near a dagger, the whispered exchanges between factions. Every gesture, every movement became a potential warning sign. One evening, as the princess practiced her embroidery, Sir Alaric noticed a stranger lingering near the palace gates, cloaked in the guise of a messenger. His instincts, honed from decades on battlefields far from the safety of the court, screamed danger. He approached without alarm, his steps silent on the polished stone floors. The stranger, realizing he had been observed, attempted a hasty retreat. Yet Sir Alaric was faster, intercepting him before he could vanish into the maze of streets outside. Questioning the intruder revealed a plot to poison the princess's evening meal, a plot that, if successful, would have claimed her young life. The princess remained blissfully unaware of the peril she had narrowly escaped. But this incident deepened the bond between guardian and charge. Sir Alaric, though a man of few words, became her living protector, teaching her subtle lessons about trust, observation, and the shadows that lurked in corners of the court where light never reached. In contrast, the palace itself, with its grandeur and opulence, hid secrets darker than any tapestry could depict. This juxtaposition of innocent youth against a backdrop of treachery defined every moment of her early life. Historians later noted that without the vigilance of Sir Alaric, the princess might not have survived her formative years. The interplay of danger and protection shaped not just her body, but her mind. She learned to sense unease, to recognize the faintest tremor of deceit in a voice or posture. In a court where smiles could mask deadly intent, the presence of her secret protector allowed her to navigate the treacherous waters of royal life, building the resilience and cunning that would one day allow her to outmaneuver even the most relentless adversaries. The palace, for all its splendor, was a maze of secrets, whispers, and shadowed alliances. Every corridor, every ornate chamber, hid schemes that could end a life as easily as a whispered word. For the young princess, the court was not just a home, it was a battlefield. Nobles vied for influence over the king, their ambitions turning even celebratory feasts into arenas of danger. Courtiers smiled while plotting, their gilded masks concealing poisoned intentions, and the smallest gesture could betray loyalty or signal doom. The princess's earliest lessons in survival came not from tutors or books, but from the subtle rhythms of courtly life. She observed the way some servants avoided certain rooms, the hesitant bow of a noble who had overstepped boundaries, the quick glances exchanged between those who shared secrets the crown did not approve of. Each detail was a piece of a puzzle she could not yet solve, a warning of dangers she would only understand with experience. The first assassination attempts had been almost laughably crude, a loose rope in the stairwell, a wine cup tainted with an unfamiliar powder. Yet even these small, clumsy acts revealed a terrifying truth. The people who surrounded her were capable of calculated cruelty. Each failure of the assassins did not bring relief. It only heightened the tension, sharpened the stakes. The princess learned quickly that in this gilded cage, charm and innocence were no protection. Alliances shifted like sand underfoot. One day, a favored noble would appear devoted to the crown, offering protection and counsel. The next, rumors of betrayal would surface, suggesting he plotted in secret with foreign powers. The young princess had to rely on instincts she scarcely understood. Who could be trusted? Who would betray her in the dead of night? Each shadow, each smile, became a question mark in a court where nothing was ever as it seemed. The secret protector, Sir Alaric, served as her guide through this labyrinth of treachery. He taught her to watch for the subtleties, the hesitation in a handshake, the nervous tapping of fingers, the avoidance of eye contact when loyalty should shine. In this deadly chess game, every gesture, every word, held potential consequences. For the princess, even a single misstep could have been fatal. The tension reached its peak during the annual royal masquerade. Nobles arrived in elaborate masks, concealing their identities beneath layers of silk and jewels. For the princess, the event was a lesson in deception and observation. Behind every ornate mask lurked ambition, envy, or hatred. A seemingly playful dance could hide deadly intent, and a compliment might mask a threat. Sir Alaric's eyes never left her, guiding her through the glittering crowd, ensuring she avoided traps carefully laid for the unwary. Through these trials, the young princess developed a unique resilience. She began to anticipate danger, reading subtle cues with a clarity beyond her years. She learned the critical skill of discerning truth from falsehood, of recognizing the motives hidden behind polite words and practiced gestures. These early encounters with betrayal and intrigue forged a mind as sharp as any blade, preparing her for the challenges she would face in the years to come. Life at the royal court had become a delicate dance between survival and trust, where every move could mean life or death. The princess quickly realized that she could not rely solely on appearances. Courtiers who offered smiles could conceal daggers, and those who whispered warnings might be the only genuine allies in a world of deception. Every corridor she walked, every banquet she attended, demanded vigilance. Her survival depended on understanding the invisible rules of this lethal game. One particularly tense morning, a trap nearly claimed her life. The princess had been summoned to a private audience with a new court advisor, a man whose reputation suggested wisdom and loyalty. Yet as she entered the chamber, a subtle shift in the air told her something was wrong. The advisor's courteous bow did not mask the glint of a small dagger beneath his sleeve. Instinctively, she stepped back, her foot catching the edge of the rug. The dagger missed by inches, embedding itself in the oak panel behind her. Shocked courtiers gasped, yet no one intervened. This was a test of cunning, not brute strength. Through moments like these, she discovered the importance of hidden allies. The princess was never truly alone. Unseen figures moved through the shadows, quietly safeguarding her. Sir Alaric, steadfast and vigilant, orchestrated diversions and intercepted messages that might have led to disaster. Other loyal servants, whose identities remained secret even to the most observant courtiers, provided warnings and assistance, quietly countering the constant threats that surrounded her. The princess learned that trust was a precious currency, exchanged only with those who had proven themselves under fire. Each narrow escape became a lesson in resilience and strategy. She learned to anticipate danger, to read subtle shifts in the room, the twitch of a hand, the glimmer of envy in an eye, the slight hesitation in a bow. These small details became vital clues, guiding her decisions and protecting her from harm. In time, she developed a keen intuition, able to sense threats before they fully materialized. Despite the constant peril, moments of unexpected kindness offered rare respite. A hand discreetly left under a table, a note with advice scrawled in hidden ink, a trusted guard whispering a warning in the dead of night. These small gestures reminded the princess that loyalty still existed amidst the treachery. It was these hidden allies who gave her the courage to continue navigating a court where innocence could be fatal. The stakes escalated further when rival factions attempted to manipulate the king through lies and forged letters, framing the princess as a pawn in their schemes. Each plot was more sophisticated than the last, blending politics and deceit, testing her ability to remain composed under pressure. Yet every narrowly avoided catastrophe strengthened her resolve, sharpening her intellect and cultivating a patience that would serve her in the long years ahead. Through danger and deception, the princess emerged not just as a survivor, but as a strategist. She began to understand the balance of power within the court, the subtle alliances that could tip the scales, and the cunning required to maintain her life against those who would see her eliminated. Each brush with death revealed the depth of her own resilience and foreshadowed a future where she would navigate the treacherous waters of royalty with confidence and intelligence. While the princess learned to navigate the dangers of the court herself, she soon realized that survival was never a solo endeavor. Around her moved a network of secret allies, individuals who risked their positions, reputations, and even lives to protect her. Their presence was invisible to most, yet their impact was profound, shaping the path that would keep the young royal alive amidst the ceaseless threats that surrounded her. One of the most remarkable allies was Lady Seraphine, a gentle yet shrewd member of the queen's household. By day, she performed her duties with impeccable grace, blending into the court like any other attendant. But behind closed doors, she became a guardian and informant, providing timely warnings and smuggling vital messages to the princess. Her courage was quiet yet unwavering. She understood the stakes and accepted them, knowing that any misstep could lead to execution, disgrace, or imprisonment. Another unexpected figure emerged in the form of the court musician, Orin. He moved freely through the palace corridors under the guise of entertainment, carrying secret notes and overhearing conversations that others would never suspect. Orin's loyalty was fueled not by titles or wealth, but by admiration for the princess's intelligence and courage. Time and again, he delivered crucial information just moments before plots could reach fruition, allowing her to avoid schemes designed to enter. The risks these allies took were immense. A misinterpreted glance, a misplaced word, or a delayed message could have meant catastrophe. They were forced to operate in the shadows, hiding their loyalty behind smiles and false reports, pretending indifference while secretly guiding the princess away from danger. Each act of assistance carried enormous personal cost, yet they persisted, driven by conviction, empathy, and an unwavering sense of justice. These secret protectors were also a source of emotional sustenance. The princess, isolated by the court's treachery, drew strength from knowing that unseen hands were working tirelessly to safeguard her. A whispered warning in the middle of the night, a hidden note tucked into her writing desk, or a discreetly signaled gesture of caution reinforced her belief that she was not entirely alone. These small but deliberate interventions created a fragile lifeline, a thread connecting her to those who understood the gravity of her plight and were willing to risk everything to help her survive. Together, these allies orchestrated escapes, intercepted dangerous correspondence, and quietly neutralized threats before they could reach her. Their actions often went unnoticed, leaving the princess free to appear composed and unaware of the dangers around her. Yet their impact was profound. Without their intervention, many of the assassination attempts, political manipulations, and secret traps might have succeeded, altering the course of history. Through the careful coordination of these hidden protectors, the princess learned the value of discretion, patience, and trust in the unseen. She began to develop her own methods for assessing loyalty, recognizing subtle cues that revealed who was genuinely on her side. The princess's relationship with her allies became a symbiotic one. She depended on them for information and protection, and they, in turn, were inspired by her resilience and courage. By the end of this chapter in her life, the princess understood that survival required not only her own cunning and courage, but also the quiet heroism of those willing to risk everything for a single. These secret allies, often anonymous and unacknowledged, were the invisible backbone of her survival, shaping her into a royal figure who could withstand even the deadliest intrigues of the court. The court was a living, breathing web of schemes, rivalries, and ambitions, an arena where even a single misstep could be fatal. For the young princess, survival was not only about avoiding physical threats. It was about understanding the subtle, invisible forces that shaped every conversation, every glance, and every decision. Court politics was a game played with deadly stakes, where allies could become enemies overnight, and enemies could disguise themselves as friends. One of the most dangerous aspects was the constant shifting of loyalties. Nobles jockeyed for favor, vying for influence over the king, the queen, and any young royal who might inherit power. A seemingly innocent comment at dinner could be overheard and twisted into evidence of betrayal. The princess quickly learned that trust was a currency rarer than gold. One misplaced word or revealed secret could trigger a chain reaction of suspicion and violence. Ambassadors from foreign courts added another layer of peril. They arrived bearing gifts, letters, and promises of alliance, but their interests were rarely aligned with the safety of the princess. Some sought to manipulate her for political leverage, others to extract intelligence, and a few even plotted her demise to advance their own agendas. The princess had to decipher their intentions, reading body language, tone, and subtle cues in a way that few adults could manage, let alone a child. The machinery of the court itself was unforgiving. Servants, guards, and advisors all played roles in the intricate dance of power. Many were loyal only to their own advancement, ready to betray in exchange for favor or money. Some were corrupted by bribes, others by fear, and a few simply thrived on chaos. The princess learned to recognize the patterns of manipulation, understanding that appearances were rarely what they seemed. Even those who seemed protective could carry hidden motives, testing her instincts at every turn. At the center of this dangerous game was the throne itself. Every noble, every foreign agent, and every court official was acutely aware that the princess represented not just a person, but a future of immense political power. To control her, to influence her, or to eliminate her was to tilt the balance of the kingdom. Plots hatched in quiet corridors, secret meetings behind heavy tapestries, and messages written in code, all were part of a relentless, invisible war that demanded constant vigilance. The princess's survival depended on mastering these unspoken rules. She began to keep mental records of alliances, grievances, and subtle gestures of loyalty. She noticed who hesitated before answering, who avoided eye contact, and who lingered too long at the edge of gatherings. Every detail became a potential warning signal, every interaction a clue to hidden intentions. Her awareness sharpened, her instincts honed to a level that rivaled even the most seasoned courtiers. Yet the court's danger was not merely intellectual, it was psychological. The princess faced constant pressure to conform, to behave in ways that concealed fear, pain, or cunning. A slip of expression could lead to rumors, punishment, or worse. She learned the art of composure, of smiling while inwardly calculating, of speaking with charm while masking true thoughts. The court was a stage, and she had to perform flawlessly, even when death lurked in every shadow. By navigating this treacherous world, the princess transformed fear into strategy. Each betrayal avoided, each trap eluded, and each alliance secured strengthened her position. Court politics became a battlefield of the mind, where intelligence, patience, and foresight were her most vital weapons. Only by understanding the dangerous game of the court could she hope to survive and eventually thrive against forces far greater than herself, In a world where every glance could conceal a threat, the young princess discovered that survival required not just vigilance, but allies, individuals whose loyalty was unwavering despite the danger surrounding them. These were the secret protectors, shadows moving quietly through the halls, ensuring her safety when others were plotting her downfall. Unlike the obvious nobles who flaunted their influence, these guardians acted in silence, their presence known only to her, their allegiance bought not with gold, but with trust and principle. One of her earliest protectors was a seasoned courtier who had witnessed decades of palace intrigue. His advice was never loud or demonstrative. It came in small, measured words, in subtle gestures that only the princess could interpret. He taught her to read the undercurrents of conversation, to notice when a compliment carried hidden malice, and when a gift masked a veiled threat. Under his guidance, the princess learned to move through the court with careful confidence, blending caution with charm in a manner that deflected attention from her true vulnerability. Beyond the courtier, a small network of servants and attendants quietly monitored the corridors and chambers. They relayed whispers overheard in kitchens, messages smuggled past guards, and warnings of approaching danger. Each messenger risked severe punishment or death, yet their loyalty never wavered. The princess came to recognize each one, learning which faces brought relief, which gestures carried reassurance, and which signs indicated that treachery lurked nearby. These allies were the lifeline in an environment where deceit thrived and the walls themselves seemed to listen. Family members, too, played complex roles. Some offered guidance, protection, and wisdom. Others were pawns of ambition, swayed by promises of influence or gold. The princess quickly learned to distinguish genuine care from manipulative concern. Letters arrived with subtle codes embedded, small tokens of reassurance, or warnings hidden in innocent phrases. These clandestine communications became critical tools, offering glimpses of loyalty in a court dominated by duplicity. Secret alliances extended beyond the palace walls. Trusted advisors cultivated relationships with sympathetic nobles, foreign diplomats, and even rival factions. They created protective buffers, using influence to shield the princess from open danger, diverting attention and neutralizing threats before they could materialize. Each act of loyalty came at great risk, often invisible to the broader court, yet it formed an invisible web that held her life together. Yet the princess could never afford complacency. Every ally carried potential vulnerability, every secret protector a possibility of betrayal. She maintained her own mental ledger, noting who had proven trustworthy in crisis and who had faltered. By carefully observing patterns, reading intentions, and interpreting subtle signals, she cultivated a strategy of measured trust. No one was fully immune to deception, but by selecting her allies with precision, she could outmaneuver even the most cunning adversaries. These relationships were not merely survival mechanisms. They were instruments of empowerment. The princess discovered that influence did not always come from outward power. Sometimes it was the quiet, invisible network of protectors that determined who lived, who thrived, and who fell victim to the court's deadly games. Through these alliances, she gained knowledge, foresight, and the confidence to act decisively, even in a world that seemed designed to destroy her. By understanding and nurturing these secret bonds, the princess turned vulnerability into resilience. Every whispered warning, every discreet intervention, and every small act of protection became a thread in the armor she wore against the relentless dangers of palace life. In the shadowy corridors of power, allies and secret protectors were the difference between death and survival, and the princess learned to rely on them with unwavering intelligence and courage. The princess soon realized that surviving the palace required more than allies. It required constant vigilance and an uncanny ability to sense danger before it struck. In the shadowy corridors and opulent halls, plots unfurled like silent storms. She narrowly escaped assassination attempts that would have ended her life, each one revealing the relentless cunning of those who envied her birthright. These incidents were never random. They were meticulously orchestrated by ambitious courtiers, distant relatives, and opportunistic nobles who saw her vulnerability as an invitation. One of the earliest threats came during a seemingly ordinary procession through the palace gardens. The princess, accustomed to maintaining a composed exterior, noticed subtle irregularities. A guard too focused on the left when his attention should have been on the right, a servant fidgeting excessively, and a flower vase placed suspiciously close to the walkway. Trusting her instincts, she altered her route at the last moment. Moments later, the vase toppled in a violent crash, revealing hidden spikes beneath, an assassination attempt that would have ended her life instantly. This narrow escape marked the beginning of a life lived in perpetual caution. Intrigues did not limit themselves to physical threats. Poison was an ever-present danger, a silent weapon wielded by those too cowardly or calculating to strike openly. Meals were scrutinized, cups inspected, and utensils were placed in secret. Every bite became a test of loyalty and survival, each sip a gamble between life and death. The princess learned to trust her intuition, using subtle cues to detect tampering, an unnatural scent in the wine, a hesitation from a servant, or a tremor in a hand delivering food. In these moments, survival demanded razor-sharp perception and an understanding of human psychology far beyond her years. Political conspiracies added another layer of danger. Allies could betray her for promises of advancement, while enemies might disguise themselves as friends. Letters intercepted by vigilant servants revealed coded plots, secret alliances, and intended betrayals. The princess had to decipher cryptic messages and respond strategically, turning potential threats into manageable risks. She learned to exploit the ambitions of others, sowing confusion among conspirators while preserving her own security. Every narrow escape sharpened her instincts, transforming fear into tactical awareness. The princess discovered that timing, observation, and rapid decision-making could mean the difference between life and death. Courtiers who once seemed harmless revealed themselves as dangerous adversaries, while minor figures, guards, servants, and messengers, emerged as pivotal protectors in moments of crisis. She relied not on brute strength, but on intelligence, courage, and the ability to anticipate the unpredictable. These episodes of danger, rather than breaking her, forged resilience. The princess learned to navigate a labyrinth of treachery, using both her intellect and her network of allies to survive. Each deadly plot exposed the fragility of her position and underscored the importance of strategic thinking, secrecy, and calculated risk-taking. By understanding the deadly stakes of court life, she transformed vulnerability into a form of power. In the crucible of plots and assassinations, the princess emerged not merely as a survivor, but as a master of palace strategy. Every narrow escape reinforced her resolve, teaching her that vigilance, cunning, and courage were the keys to outliving enemies who sought her downfall. In a world of constant peril, the line between life and death was defined by perception, intuition, and the unwavering determination to endure. Years of constant danger, hidden threats, and near-death experiences forged the princess into a figure of resilience few could comprehend. Each narrow escape, each poisoned cup, each whispered betrayal had left its mark, but instead of breaking her, it shaped a mind honed for survival. She became not just a royal by birth, but a master of strategy and intuition, capable of navigating the treacherous currents of court life with a precision that even seasoned courtiers admired and feared. Her survival was not merely a testament to luck, it was the result of calculated intelligence, adaptability, and courage under pressure. The princess learned to read people like open books, gauging intent from the smallest gestures, understanding ambition from a single glance, and detecting deception from the faintest tremor in a voice. Over time, She built an invisible network of allies, strategically placed within the palace and among loyal nobles, creating a safety net that allowed her to act decisively when threats arose. As she grew older, her triumph became visible not only in her personal safety, but in the influence she wielded over court affairs. Where once she had been a passive figure, threatened at every turn, she now became an active participant in the shaping of policy, alliances, and decisions. Her counsel was sought by those who once viewed her as a vulnerable child, and her judgment carried weight in matters of diplomacy, succession, and governance. The very people who had plotted against her came to recognize that her survival was no accident. It was mastery born of experience and intellect. Even the scars of her early trials became instruments of influence. Her knowledge of betrayal and intrigue allowed her to anticipate challenges before they emerged and to turn potential adversaries into unwitting collaborators. The princess had transformed vulnerability into power, fear into strategy, and danger into opportunity. Each peril she had endured contributed to a formidable reputation, one that inspired respect, commanded attention, and demanded caution from even the most ambitious courtiers. Her triumph extended beyond the palace walls. The lessons learned within gilded halls of deceit became tools for leadership, diplomacy, and negotiation on a broader stage. She understood that survival in a hostile environment required more than defensive measures. It demanded foresight, creativity, and the courage to act when others hesitated. Her every decision reflected a balance between pragmatism and daring, ensuring that she would not merely exist but flourish. Ultimately, the princess's story is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit when confronted with relentless adversity. She endured physical danger, psychological manipulation, and political schemes that would have crushed an ordinary child, emerging not as a victim, but as a survivor and strategist. Her life became a blueprint for navigating peril with intelligence and determination, proving that survival is not merely about avoiding death. It is about mastering the circumstances that surround it. The triumph of the princess lies not in her escape from individual threats, but in the transformation she achieved. From a child at the mercy of ruthless courtiers, she evolved into a sovereign of her own destiny, a figure whose legacy is defined by courage, adaptability, and indomitable spirit. Her survival, against all odds, stands as a timeless reminder that power, wisdom, and resilience can emerge from even the most harrowing beginnings.